So, hello everybody, and welcome to a new Friend of the Sea interview session. Today's guest is Claire Weber, Research and Liaison Officer at ASBTIA, the Australian Southern Bluefin Tuna Industry Association, whose fishing and farming practices have been certified Friend of the Sea since several years now. So welcome, Claire. We are very pleased to have you here with us today. Where are you right now?
Hi, Paolo. I'm in Port Lincoln in South Australia. It's on the tip of the Eyre Peninsula. It's a small town, 14,000 people live here, and the main industry is seafood production. And the largest industry that operates out of here is the tuna industry, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Great. So can you tell us a bit more about ASBTIA?
So it's a mouthful. It stands for the Australian Southern Bluefin Tuna Industry Association. And we are based here in Port Lincoln. We represent 7 companies that operate tuna ranches here in Port Lincoln, which are all certified under Friend of the Sea. It's about around 50 entities that make up those 7 companies that are our direct members. And it was founded in 1978. So it's been going quite a long time.
Great. So what is ASBTIA doing to achieve sustainability in the more general context of the fishery management by the designated RFMO? Do you think that your fleets and operations stand out for best practices, and why?
Well, certainly globally we do. The Australian government fisheries management structure as a whole is very strict and well managed. So fishers find themselves quite heavily regulated here. So as far as the RMFO goes, in 1991, we started tuna ranching. It's different to tuna farming because we go out into the Great Australian Bight and purseine our fish and put them into pontoons where we tow them slowly back to Port Lincoln, and then we feed them bait fish for 4 to 6 months before harvesting them out at nearly double the weight of what we put them in. And this type of ranching method came into place in 1991 following falling catches of southern bluefin. Quotas were implemented in 1984, and then there was just a big slide away sort of there with catches increasing and the stock being under pressure. So this method of ranching is in itself sort of a way to pull back from the natural fishery, reduce that pressure while still being able to value add on a product and provide a product that the market was demanding, which is a premium sashimi product that goes predominantly into Japan. So under this sort of ranching methods, we operate under very strict quotas that are set by the CCSBT, the Commission for the Conservation of Southern Bluefin Tuna, and that RMFO was brought into place in 1994 and has acted actually as quite a blueprint for lots of other RMFOs because of its success. It was founded by Australia, Japan and New Zealand. And I actually think that the remoteness of this fishery from most sort of high populous places has protected it to a fair degree, but it hasn't been without its overcatch, and we are constantly working to return this fishery now to a level seen as acceptable by the CCSBT, which we hope to have it there by 2030.
That's very interesting, Claire. And what about social accountability? Are there any issue in your fishery as a global fishery, not just Australia? We know that there are sometimes some issues in other tuna fisheries. And what is ASBTIA doing, to make sure that workers' rights are respected?
Okay, well, with the social accountability side of things, a lot of times where fisheries run into issues is when there's ghost netting or they're catching whales or interacting with other threatened, endangered or
Mhm.
protected species. So where we net our tuna is far offshore, off of the continental shelf in the Great Australian Bight, where there are not large populations of marine mammals. Well,
Mhm.
the time of year that we're out catching, the whales are feeding in Antarctica during summer, so we're not interacting with them. It's very deep ocean water. Dolphins are not common out there. If we do get any bycatch, it might be some smaller tunas like a skipjack, that in very small amounts. So we really don't have this TEPS species interaction issue, or bycatch issues that some other fisheries can have. Purseining is a very selective way to catch your fish. Um, and also, with the social accountability side, if I'm honest with you, we did have an issue about 10 years ago where, working in the aquaculture zone in Spencer Gulf where the tuna are, um, you know, it's a very dynamic environment. There are storms, there are deckhands that don't know how to tie knots properly, and um, rope could wash off the
Mhm.
aquaculture site from time to time. And our local community here was sort of getting a bit annoyed about it. And, they were picking up ropes and things. So we actually voluntarily initiated an Adopt a Beach program where each of the aquaculture companies from around the Lower Eyre Peninsula have been allocated a 10 to 15 kilometre stretch of beach that they're
Uh-huh.
responsible for going and tidying up 4 times a year. So we cover 155 kilometres of coastline, including offshore islands. And part of my job is to maintain the data from the program, send out quarterly reminders for everyone to get out there and clean their beaches up, and collate that information and provide it to the public and to the government when required. So that's a local initiative that we have going here, just to shore up that social accountability that we have. Although our social license to operate here in Port Lincoln is very high. And I suppose that brings us to our next point that comes to our workers, because it's a small town and we employ 982 FTEs in a town of 14,000. And that's just in the tuna sector. That's not kingfish, that's not abalone, that's not oysters, it's not mussels.
Uh-huh.
So most people that live in Port Lincoln either work in the seafood sector or have a friend or family member who do, and are very highly aware of what we do and are accepting of the things that we do, because we do it in a way that protects the local environment and provides local jobs. So that account of that, what is it, social acceptance dissipates the further you
Mhm.
go from Port Lincoln. And again, if you're in a major city like a Sydney or a Melbourne, it'll be less again. But locally, we work within all of the labour laws that Australia has. We have fairly high minimum wages here. I think the minimum wage is just under $23 an hour. That's for your entry level. And so, yeah, it's I think that our social accountability is well spoken for.
Great. It's very good to hear that all these issues are being considered and that you have this very good relation with the local community. It's very important. What about Friend of the Sea and in general third-party sustainability certifications? Are these relevant to you? Why are your customers like appreciating these, or in some cases maybe even requesting these?
So I think that a lot of our domestic customers do. So our premium sashimi product goes into a lot of high-end restaurants domestically. So into Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, but also into some high-end restaurants as well overseas in Hong Kong or Singapore, and definitely in Japan. Um, I think that restaurant market, people who are eating there are paying a lot for what they're getting, and they want to know that it's come from somewhere that's sustainable, and they have every right to demand that. And I think that chefs and restaurateurs in particular are becoming more and more conscious of this. So it's handy in that sense. I think that the bulk of our frozen market that goes into Japan, maybe it's not that they don't care, it's just that eating sashimi is such a tradition for that nation that is just what they do. And I think that the certification label historically has not been as important to that market. However, the new generation is coming through, and that might be something that's changing. In developing markets like China and Korea, yeah, definitely they have they like to have confidence that in the products that they're purchasing. I think that that more so for us, we are pushing that sustainability, accountability to our customers, in Australia and in our new and emerging markets.
Great. It's good to know that we are providing you with some added value with the certification, a well-deserved one. So looking at the future, in particular, the future after COVID, in Australia maybe a bit less, but in Europe, in other places, this has hit really hard the economy,
it has.
and somehow made some changes also in people's perspectives towards the goods they eat, the good they purchase. So looking at the future, do you expect sustainability and interest towards sustainability will grow, and maybe in which specific areas of sustainability?
Well, I think that as far as protection of the fishery stock and not having environmental degradation and direct impacts on TEPS species, that's already the status quo. That's already what's expected of fishermen and fishing industries and aquaculture industries globally now. I think that the future is looking more towards technological advancement that makes fishing more sustainable. The use of new, it might be better ways to drive your boat, more efficient ways to run your engines, that is having like that secondary impact on climate change, or packaging, sustainable packaging for seafood. I mean, wrapping fish up in paper is not very good. You need plastic is a great way to package seafood because it keeps all the juices in, and it can keep the shelf life of the product longer.
Exactly, yes.
But it's not maybe the most sustainable way to be packaging your product. So what can we do to replace it but still keep the shelf life, or even better, extend it? So that it'll be those kinds of add-on advancements in technology and the way that we run our businesses that is going to make the big changes, not that run-of-the-mill, don't catch a dolphin and don't throw your rubbish in the ocean kind of stuff. That stuff's already done and expected. And it'll be something new and novel. I don't know if I'm the one that's going to come up with it, but I'll definitely embrace it if anyone's got any good ideas.
Yeah, and it's going to be a challenge, I think, and there's a need for new technologies, new systems to be developed to solve some of these issues, I believe. Well, thank you so much, Claire, for providing us with such an interesting insight in your industry and also your views about sustainability. Congratulations to ASBTIA, for the great efforts and the results obtained in this path towards sustainable fishing and farming practices. So it was great having you with us. Thank you very much.
No worries, mate. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.